Hi, everyone. This is Charles Hoskinson, broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. We have a huge snowstorm coming. They say in some areas of the state it could be up to 90 inches of snow. For those of you who don't live in Imperial land, that's over a meter of snow. Ah, it's a lot to think about. So today is one of those red days. And from time to time, I do make videos when there are red days and people are panicking and there's blood in the streets and hope seems to be gone. Oh my, what are we to do? What are we to do? The fundamentals have changed because day traders are moving in a particular direction, or we haven't gotten something to satiate our appetite for news or progress this week. Oh my, the fundamentals must be broken. The project must be dead. Rats off the ship. It's sinking. Ours is a movement that is measured in years and decades, and it's a philosophy. It's a lifestyle. It's a belief that we can change things. It's a belief that we can change the way the world works, and that together, working together, hundreds of thousands, eventually millions, eventually tens of millions, eventually hundreds of millions of people from different backgrounds, different philosophies, religions, genders, ages, cultures will come together and say that the world ought to work a little differently. Our industry as a whole go through many cycles. I've seen it be in desperate times. I've seen it so fragile that a slight change in hash rate or collapse of a particular marketplace and the dream would have been snuffed out like someone blowing out a candle. And I've seen it with irrational exuberance and strong and powerful and billions of dollars flowing in from people covered in avarice and greed, not really understanding what they're buying or why they're buying it because they desire to have a grand and great lifestyle. In all these directions, the point is lost in mist. The point is, this is the first time in human history we have the ability to decide, not our betters, not kings, not presidents, not empires, not conquerors with a grand military behind them, regalia and all, but we have the ability to rise up and decide how the world is going to work and decide what is fair, what is not fair, and how we should be treated. How should we treat each other? How should institutions treat us? And how do we qualify the fruits of our labors? And we get to decide the rules behind that. Does money really matter when the very definition of it is up for grabs? You know, we are so close as an industry to a fundamental change in the way that people perceive everything about society. The legitimacy of votes, how to own property. I never in my life would have imagined a reality where people can sell Homer Pepe for $300,000. Yet here we are. All these things are in a Cambrian explosion and extinction of experimentation, quite Darwinian, and each and every one of you is on the train and you're on the boat. Maybe you didn't realize that. Maybe you were here to get rich. Maybe you were here just because it's a protest. Who knows? I don't know your heart or your motivation. All I can do is speak for myself and also my understanding of the technology and where does it go. The fundamentals of Cardano in particular are among the soundest in our industry because we're backed by a tireless, passionate community, so willing to tattoo their bodies with our logo, 100+ papers, so much code, so much progress, and we don't regress. We don't give up ground. The deals come, the birds will land. If not now, then later. And I'm patient. And I'm backed by so many people who are as well, who have a fanatical loyalty to the concept that we will get where we need to go. And we'll get there with principles, character, and a belief that each and every one of us matters. leaving no one behind. That's where we're at. That's why I never worry. That's why I say take a chill pill. You know, nothing rises forever, nothing collapses forever. There will always be ebbs and flows and balances, just like I told everybody last year when we stared at a pandemic and there was panic and everything was falling apart and people believing that society as a whole would come collapsing down and stockpiling food and ammunition and toilet paper as if somehow that rare commodity would disappear in just a matter of a few precious weeks. And was it as bad as we thought it was going to be? Did the whole world collapse? Did there not be a tomorrow? Was The Walking Dead a documentary rather than a fantasy? No, it didn't come to pass. And these brief moments where there's panic are just sad reflections of the inability of some people to really commit. I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to work just as hard as I did today, but I'll probably wake up at the same time. Going to work out, going to meditate, answer my emails, going to talk to the developers, look at what's upcoming next week, negotiate some deals that are still in the queue, check the status of deals that have already closed and we're servicing. We're going to have a call about Alonzo, the hard fork, which will bring smart contracts. Continue working at partnerships, continue talking to governments. Nothing changes. And that's my life. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And I do it with joy. I really love it. If I made nothing, I made something, I'd do the same thing because I worked for free for a really long time. And I'd go back to that because I know if I put enough days in and I do enough work and I push hard enough, one day I have a real shot at seeing the things that I imagined could be true actually true. One day I have a real shot at seeing these protocols become the standard instead of the exception to the rule. These protocols being the dominant forces upon which our lives are judged. I look to the future, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and let me tell you what we as a species are staring at for a moment. We are looking at deep fakes so persuasive, you will no longer be able to determine fact and fiction. You'll see videos with perfect representations of people you used to know, love, and trust doing deplorable things. We will see AI so advanced that chatbots can pass the Turing test and fool you into believing they're real people and deployed for nefarious purposes, economic purposes. And you think catfishing is bad now? Imagine that future of deep fakes and AI. That's just one dimension. We see CRISPR coming down the pipe that will fundamentally change the way that genetics work for us all. Synthetic biology, designer organisms, engineering at scales and levels we couldn't imagine. You think these pandemics are bad now? Imagine what happens when they can be engineered in ways that would take the worst of all things and put them together and spread them 10 times as fast. That's coming, amongst many, many, many other things, such as social credit. More than 1 billion people live in a reality where it's government policy for their neighbor to spy upon them. It's government policy for each and every person to get a number stamped on their head. Their freedom of travel, their economic freedom, their ability to interact in society, the schools they go to are completely dependent upon those numbers. How they're determined, the people who give them out don't even know because they're driven by machines more than people, unless you go against the agenda. That will spread. It'll work its way throughout Asia. It'll work its way throughout the Middle East, Europe, Africa, South America, and right here at home in America. If not by a government, then by a private industry. That and dozens of other existential issues await all of us in the next 20 to 30 to 40 years. Not to mention the environmental catastrophes. Not to mention the wars that will come as America and China flirt with the Thucydides trap. The point of our industry is to give us a little bit of fucking hope that we can get out of that we can manage that that we don't need the great war to set the standards and regulate these existential technologies. The point of our industry is for each and every one of us to have a say and maybe how we can navigate to a world of peace, a world where we get along, a world where we have empathy and compassion and understand each other, and we can sort out objective reality from manufactured reality. That is why we're here. I'd like to believe there are millions of people tirelessly waking up every day that see these things. If not explicitly, then they feel them implicitly. And they see on the horizon the tides of doom that could come. And they realize that if we take a step back from the precipice, we have a rare moment in human history where the arc of history will not be determined by force and violence and not determined by the whims and wills of a lucky conqueror, but rather for the first time ever from the bottom up by all of us together, working together to evolve the race, humanity, and for us to grow in wisdom and prosperity. The coming years will either be defined by a utopia we build, or they will be defined by a hell we build. What the hell does money matter when you're faced with that? Do you really want to be a billionaire in a dystopia where at every given moment, if you say or do the wrong thing, all that is given can be taken at a drop of a hat, and this time by an algorithm, not a person? Is that really the highest pursuit? Is that what you're really looking for there? What have we accomplished? We've built a decentralized brain. We're building a decentralized government. We're building a protocol that is faceless and over time organically becomes more decentralized, organically gets more feature rich and powerful, and its tentacles get deeper and deeper, not just into private industry, but into society as a whole. And there will come a day, if not this year, then the next year, then the year after, it's my life's work, that an entire government will run its DNA with the things that we've constructed and the values we've set forth. And if I'm right, we're right. If this evolves in the right direction, I see a path out of the dystopia that is coming, that we're also gleefully marching towards as a species. And I believe that we can see brighter days ahead, a brighter horizon. This is what inspires me. It's why I'm still here. Certainly not for the money. It hasn't been for a long time about economics. I'm okay. The only thing that I have now that is finite in supply is my time. I can choose to spend it anywhere and any place. And the reason why I wake up every day and keep doing the same things and keep building the same things and saying the same things and spending that finite time that I don't have to spend is because I believe there's a higher purpose to the things that we do. And I'm inspired by the countless emails, letters, communications, tweets, private messages, and in person contacts with people throughout the world who believe the same things. And this gives me hope that we will get there. So, on these dark days, or these red days, or these days where fair weather people run around and they bark and cry and piss and scream like a child throwing a tantrum in a toy aisle, I sometimes do make these little musings to remind you of what it's all about, for at least for me, and why I've chosen to spend the finite time I have being here every single day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It doesn't get any easier. It actually gets a little harder, and I get a little older and a little slower. And to compete at the levels I used to takes more time, more effort, more energy. And that energy I'm robbing from my family, my friends. The people around me keep getting older. When I started in this space, I had 4 grandparents, 2 grandmothers, 2 grandfathers. I just have a grandfather left. Missed a lot of weddings and funerals and events and birthdays and anniversaries. And I will continue to do that because there's nothing I can do in my life that is more meaningful than the things that we are doing here together. The papers we're writing, the code we're writing, the ecosystem we're building. And I see the strength. I see the numbers. I see people showing up and I see the progress, real meaningful progress. So here's the brighter horizons that are coming. And here's to all of you who chose to walk this same journey and take equivalent or in some cases even greater sacrifices under even worse circumstances. The reality is that some people who are in this space, they have to be private about it. And if they're not, they could be arrested and killed. Some people in this space have nothing to give but their time, and they work unlimited hours just to try to scrape by, but they believe in the philosophy. We owe it to them that we give it our best, and we owe it to them that we never lose the faith and we never give up on why we do what we do. I do not want to live in a world that's not worth living in for anyone, except for the privileged few. I want to live in a world that's worth living in for all people, because there's dignity in all people. There's dignity in human life. No one is above another at the end of the day. And it is the highest pursuit in life to remind all humans of that basic fact that life matters. And it's dignity in human life to try to build a society that honors that for each and every person, to have empathy and compassion for each and every person. We cannot continue to invest in systems that are blind to such things, and in some cases, exacerbate the problems amongst us. It's time for us to invest in systems that can work and scale and be good for us all. Some people call me naive because I believe such a thing can happen, an idealist, an optimist. But you tell me, when I entered this space, Bitcoin was less than $1. The totality of the market cap was less than $10 million. That's a house on the hill in Boulder. Today, it's a $1 trillion ecosystem that has inspired countless tens of millions of people throughout the world and fundamentally changed the culture of the world, the laws of the greatest nations. And all of that was done without a leader or centralized coordination. If we can achieve that in 10 years' time, and to empower an entire generation of people to dream, what can we achieve in a century?